just water.
Yes. So I'm going to start on our dashboard. And here is the right transaction that we're creating that we were just in. So it's right on the top. I know I mentioned it a little bit ago, but I'm just going to point it out. All of these things are going to be the last thing that you accessed. So this is the last transaction that I accessed in order. This is the last signings that I accessed in order. And these are the last forms. So I added the pre-closing walkthrough last. So that's the last form that I accessed. So I'm going to go to the last transaction. And this is the dashboard for each transaction. All of our documents are on the left-hand side. This is a different address just so I can show you how to add the HOA addendum in. These are going to be all the documents. So if they have a SPUD, an insurance claims history, a solar lease, an HOA addendum in the documents in MLS, when you import from MLS, all of them will be in this document section right here. Since it's not provided by AAR or Armless, it's going to be in the documents, even though it's in one of those forms. Forms over here on the right-hand side is anything you need to fill in. Once something is signed, it becomes a document. So if they sign their purchase contract, you're going to find it under the documents, not under the forms. Okay? So we're going to go to the form so we can write an offer. First thing we're going to do is write the purchase contract. We've already done the contacts though, remember? So don't open the forms and start filling them in without doing the contacts. This one's listed at $4.50. Really? So if I came in here and just wrote Bob Buyer in, here, I'll do it right here. Let's just say Sue Buyer. I'm going to show you. So I've added a second buyer in here. And this is where you go to the contacts. We're going to go send it for signature. Sue Buyer is now in the contacts of this. But because how is it going to know the email unless I put it in there? So now there's no email. So you go to send it for signature and her email is not going to be in here. This is why it's important to add them in as a buyer and with their email in the beginning before you open up any forms. So you can edit it here. You can go in here and I'm just going to put the same email. And you can change their signature too. If you have an LLC, if your buyer is buying in an LLC, you're going to want their buyer name is going to show here and as the LLC, and then you're going to change their signature to whatever their signature name is supposed to be. Okay? So we're going to go back to the purchase contract. If you accidentally write their names in before adding in the contacts, just do what I just did. Go back to the contacts, add in their email. And we're going to fill it in. So all of this stuff is filled in from MLS. Here's the seller name that I already put in there. I recognized it. I'm going to put 10,000 earnest. Let's say 40,000 down. 400,000 secured by convention. Alright, so this stuff is already filled in from our template. This is why those are so useful. May 29th, close of, or June 29th, close of escrow. The addenda, there was an HOA addendum and nothing else. And we're not going to take any appliances. Conventional loan. Let's pretend all this stuff is filled in. And it wasn't lead-based paint. Okay. So all of this stuff is all filled in already. If they wanted a home warranty, you would fill this in. Close of escrow on or before, what was it, June 29th? With both parties in agreement. So let's say here you want to add a clause in. That was the first thing I had showed you was those clauses that we set up. This is where you would access them. So here's a clause. Your buyer wants to do an appraisal shortfall. So we're going to add in an appraisal shortfall. The buyer is willing to pay an extra $10,000 over appraisal amount. So that's what we're going to put in here. This is why these clauses are so important. Who wants to type all of this in here? Nobody. So this is directly from the additional clause addendum note. This isn't out yet. This appraisal shortfall is not out yet. The broker, our broker had a copy of it and put it out to everybody. So I just immediately copied it. I do see appraisal contingencies being waived in Section 8. 1031 is being disclosed in Section 8. But really our broker wants them to be done with an additional clause addendum because that's the proper way to do it. Questions?
Nope.
Oh. Alright, so those are in there. Terms of acceptance is going to be tomorrow. Alright. It added me in there. My template. I think I might have chosen Okay, and then it took all the seller's agent's information here. So they're both my home group. We're going to do both buyer and seller. Change these check boxes to both buyer and seller when they're both my home group agents. And there's our contract. Exit out of that. So that one's saved. We don't need to open up the buyer disclosure because remember the template. We already checked all of our boxes, added everything in there. So I don't even need to open up the disclosures. I don't need to open up the advisories or anything. So I filled in all the information for the purchase contract in just a few minutes because our template was filled out.
Okay, I have one question. Once again, where did you import from the MLS information? How did you do that?
When I created a transaction,
okay,
it asked me. So I'm going to show you from here, menu. Import data if you forgot.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And then you can import it from here. When you create a new transaction though, here, and you type it all in, import data from ARMList, and you put the MLS number here. I don't want to mix up the other one I have. Okay, so back to our form, purchase contract. So we're going to send this to the buyer for signing. I'm purposely going to make changes to it just so I can show you guys how to change stuff, so don't think I'm making mistakes on purpose. So forms, purchase contract, agency disclosure, market conditions, advisory. You would normally include the buyer advisory, but that's one thing with TransactionDesk is it takes a few minutes to load everything. The bigger the package is, it takes a few minutes to send it to your client's email. So if you send it for signature, I would wait a couple minutes before telling your buyer that it's in their email to sign, because it does take a little bit of patience. So click on everything that you want your client to sign. This is what I was doing here, is clicking while I was talking. Everything that I want the client to sign. So I want them to sign all of these. I still want them to sign that affiliated business disclosure and HOA addendum in the documents, but you can't send forms and documents at the same time to the signing system, so you have to choose one or the other, and then we have to add the other ones in later.
How did you get to right there again?
To this one, just from your dashboard or from the transaction screen here. These are my list of transactions. And then my dashboard. Clicked on that, and then I clicked on the forms.
On the word?
Go to forms. You can go to forms, or you can click on the right side, forms. This is why TransactionDesk is complicated, is because there's 7 ways to do one thing on TransactionDesk. So I'm in the forms section. I want to send purchase contract, agency disclosure, market conditions advisory, and wire fraud advisory for signature. You click everything that you want to send for signature, go to this basket, and click on the pen. Wherever you're at in TransactionDesk, this pen is taking you to the signing system. Okay, so we're going to put sign and authenticate. I'm gonna stop here for a second just to show you a couple things that you guys can do here. You can download them all and print them out if you wanted to. Download them, save them as a PDF, and you can email them over to somebody if you wanted to from here.
But you can't do forms and documents
At the same time, no.
to send one email. Like if I said, here's to review over, I'd have to send 2 emails.
Yes, you have to send 2 emails for forms and documents.
Or you can download them and just put all the attachments on one email.
That's what I do.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds complicated.
I just want to make sure I heard you correctly. Did you say you can't do a signing with forms and documents? And
You can't send it. I'm going to show you where we can add them in though. You can't send them all to AuthentiSign at the same time. You have to choose to either send forms or choose to send documents. So I'm sending this to the signing system right now.
Okay. Oh, okay.
And then we're going to add documents in.
It's for the signing session.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is an offer. This right here that I'm editing is what's going to show up as the subject line in your client's email. So you want to make sure to edit this. It's good. A lot of times we'll just have the last form that was attached and that'll be the name, and it won't. There's so many characters you can put in here, so it doesn't make sense. So you want to edit this. You can do sign in line if you wanted to. One person want to sign before the other, and then you can do simultaneous sign. So under advanced options, you can set it to expire. Reminders, I always do reminders on my signing, so if you're sending addendums out and your clients aren't signing, you want them to sign, then you can do reminders. I do 4 hours, that's the minimum you can do, but you can do longer than that. And then this hide signature key on signed documents, you want to make sure this is always checked. If you've ever seen offers or documents come through with a yellow box on it or a yellow key that has all their signing information there, that's because this is not checked. So if you don't check this, every single initial and every single signature on every form is going to have a big ugly yellow box or key next to it. It's going to be super annoying if you scroll over it. Okay?
What does that say?
Hide signature key on signed documents. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I was guilty of that.
Sorry.
Is that default then? If you check it once, is it?
No, I access dozens of agents' TransactionDesk, and sometimes it's checked and sometimes it's not. That's super frustrating, so I just always make sure that it's checked.
So each time you do that, you double check that.
Yeah, I always go to advanced options and make sure it's checked.
And what does it do if you don't check it?
If you don't check it, there's a big, like, ugly yellow key or a yellow box next to every client's initial and signature.
Good. I have a question. Can you go back, because what you did is you hit up on the top, the signing up at the top. I hit the signing over to the right, and then I just pull the documents into the signing,
Yes.
and it never comes up with the boxes remaining there after the signature. So is this because you did it?
No, it just might be your settings.
Because it never, I just go to the right that I put signing, and then I have to put in the signing name. I mean, identified name, so I usually just put whoever I'm sending to, I just put their name there. And then I pull the document, the forms and documents in, I download them into Identified, and then sometimes
If yours is set to automatically hide it, like mine is like this, then you won't have to worry about that.
okay.
But if
So
yours,
it may already be set that way,
Yeah.
okay. All right, that's why. All right.
all right, participants is your next step. So when you go to participants, it's automatically going to pull up all the participants that are already in this transaction. So that's the seller's name, the buyers, the listing agent, and you. So I want Bob Buyer to sign, and I want Sue Buyer to sign. And then I'm gonna, if you wanna CC anybody, then you would add them at this point as well. So if you have a listing agent, to where you want it to automatically send to the listing agent once it's signed, you're gonna click this. For some reason, TransactionDesk makes them a reviewer. So the reviewer option means it's going to send it to them to approve the file before it's complete. So you do not want them to be a reviewer. You only want them to get a copy once it's signed. They have to, if they're a reviewer, then they're gonna have to approve it. Okay? So that's for anybody. I have cases where like the husband is the buyer, but the wife wants to see all the documents first. You would add the wife in here as a contact, just a general contact, not a buyer, and make them a reviewer. And then they would approve all the documents before it goes out. Okay, so let's say we're sending this to the listing agent. We're gonna make them a CC. I'm not going to do this right now because I don't want to accidentally send the listing agent an offer, but I'm gonna make myself a CC. Click add, and now it's, every time you change a contact, it's gonna do this system layout mapping. So Joni, I think this is where you were telling me that you had a drag on a purchase contract. It's because you didn't apply this. This, when you apply this, is where it applies the initials and the signatures where it's supposed to without you having to drag everybody's names, signatures, dates, everything. So Bob is assigned as the buyer, so he's gonna automatically have all of his layouts assigned. Sue's the buyer. The other thing we need to sign are these other marks. So the market conditions advisory, the wire fraud advisory, those are buyer and seller documents. They're not buyer or seller specific. So those are called other spots. So I want Bob to sign the market conditions advisory in the first spot, and I want Sue to sign in the second spot.
Oh, that was worth the class.
How did you do this mapping?
It automatically pops up for you whenever you change a contact. So I'm going to show you, let's say I accidentally made a mistake and I put the wrong person in the wrong spot. All I'm going to do is delete Sue out, and then go back to add participant, add from this transaction, and then I add Sue back in, and because I made a change to the contacts, it pops up for me again.
Got it.
So that's the easy way to move. If you have buyer 1 is him and buyer 2 is her, typical, and then the system auto generates the signatures in reverse, right, or the initials in reverse.
Yeah,
That's
if you
the
want
easy way to do it rather than drag,
then
drop,
drag
drag,
them
drop,
all.
drag.
Yeah, just go back, delete a contact, add them back in, and then reassign the layouts.
I actually called TransactionDesk support for that.
They didn't know what to do.
They didn't tell me to do that.
It depends on who you get. Sometimes I hang up and call back. Okay, document. So here we go. These are the forms that I sent to the signing system already. This is now where I need to add in my documents. So you can add documents, and then you're going to go to the top option is what was in our transaction and TransactionDesk. You can also upload a file. If you had downloaded like the HOA addendum to your computer, then you would upload it as a file, or the affiliated business disclosure or full disclosure. If you don't put these in the transaction, you can upload it as a file. So this is why I tell you guys to put it in TransactionDesk, so you don't have to do this step. It's just in here for you. So this top option, I'm going to go to my transactions. These are all the forms I had in here, and here's the documents. So I added this HOA addendum in here. Let's pretend like this came from Armless. If this came from Armless, then you're looking right here. This is the HOA addendum the listing agent had in the listing. If there was a SPUDS here they put in there, you would be able to have them sign the SPUDS, anything. So this affiliated business disclosure, I always add that in too. They only need to sign it one time. It doesn't have an address on it. So if you've already done an offer for your buyer once, you don't need to have them re-sign these documents. You can rearrange however you want to. I like to put all the house, that specific property documents together, and then all the disclosures differently. So apply layout. This is where we're going to, I'm going to show you later where we're going to make the layout, but I'm going to show you right now how to apply a layout. Layouts are what TransactionDesk calls like your signing templates. So the initials, the signatures that you're talking about, it already has those for the purchase contract or the forms, but it doesn't have those, like the listing agreement doesn't have a layout. The market conditions advisory doesn't have a layout. So you want to create your own layout so you don't have to drag and drop. You definitely want to create a layout for the purchase contract for sellers. So you don't have to drag your seller's initials down every spot for purchase contract. So that's something that I would do right away if you're gonna have a listing. So I'm gonna apply the layout. Let's say, I hope I have a market conditions layout in here. I do. So I'm gonna apply a layout to the market conditions advisory document. And these are all the layouts I have saved. Market conditions advisory. Bob is buyer 1, Sue is buyer 2.
How do we get to the layout section?
Yeah, I don't have that on mine.
That's because you haven't set them up yet. You have
Okay.
no layout set up. So I'll
Oh.
show you how to set those up.
Okay.
Okay? So that button won't be there if you guys haven't set up any layouts.
Well, no, it seems like sometimes you get the button and sometimes you don't, and I haven't figured out why that is. This has been the best class ever.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very good.
All right, so I have one for the HOA addendum for buyer to sign. I'm not going to apply this because I want you guys to see how to do that. So I'm just going to cancel that out. But I just want to show you where to get that. All right. I have no more. Small tip that I'm not going to show you today, but if you're sending a final walkthrough for signatures, it automatically applies your buyer on the layout. Always click ignore like I'm doing right here, because it will give your buyer the optional signature on all 3 spots of the final walkthrough.
Oh.
So you don't have to go through and delete
Yeah.
every single spot and then drag and drop them. So if you click ignore, when it asks you, when it pops up, click ignore, then you won't have to go through and delete them all. Oh no, my session timed
I
out.
think it does it on the additional clause addendum too.
Oh gosh, that's so frustrating. Have you guys done an additional clause addendum like that yet?
As a
It
part.
applies,
Yeah,
yeah,
to all of them.
you need to say ignore on
Yep.
additional clause addendum, because it'll apply their initials on everything.
Yeah.
All right, so I was in this signing and it kicked me out. So this is a good example of, it saves everything for you. I love this about TransactionDesk is now, it kicks me out. I don't have to go back and do everything I've just done. I just go to the right here for signings, and it's right here. And this little gear means I was working on it. So it brings me back to exactly where I was.
I wanted to throw something out for everyone that I just learned the last couple days too, on contacts. When you go into contacts on the left, it's
Contact.
different. There's more information when you go into contacts on the right. So I started the signing session, and I input the first middle initial and last name of my client, both of them. And then when I got to the signing session, and even the initials, you can put the initials that you want. His middle initial was missing. And I kept going back in the contacts and trying to find where is that legal name. Well, you have to go into the right side. Did you know that? You have to go into the right side contact.
Rather than the left-hand side?
Because the left-hand side doesn't give you that page that has legal name.
I don't know if I've seen that.
And that translates right to how the signature shows up.
But if you add them on the left side, they're not added to the transaction. So you want to make sure to be transaction
Yeah,
specific.
there's so much good to learn about this.
Yeah, it is. It's a very complicated system. I get why agents don't want to use it because
Yeah.
it's complicated. But once you learn it, it does so much more
Yeah.
than what zip form says.
Yeah.
I agree with that. That's why we keep going with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you do this every week?
You just let me know when you need to write an offer, and I'll just throw a class on. All right, so these are the layouts here. It's applied the layouts. Bob and Sue are signing.
For sure.
Bob and Sue are signing. So on an offer, you want to make sure to delete these boxes out of here. It's giving your buyers the option to sign where they choose they want to sign here, and you don't want to give them that option. They don't even read the contract most of the time, so they're not going to know where they want to sign. So I delete these optional signatures out every time. And then you go up to the right-hand side that says drag and drop. Choose what buyer you want to drag and drop, and just drag it. So if you notice, we have the red and the green. Green is optional, so it gives them an option to sign it or not. If you do the red, that means they can't complete the signing without them initial in that spot. So Sue's gonna initial here.
Can I ask another
Yes.
question here? So in zip forms, you used to be able to drag a check mark,
Oh, yeah.
if I remember correctly. It's been a while.
We're gonna do it.
Okay, good.
Okay. So we're actually doing it right here. So the layout in TransactionDesk is already perfect besides that lead-based paint spot. So you really don't need to do anything else. This is automatic. You don't need to set those up. They're already set up. So here's the HOA addendum. This is an example of when you need to drag a checkbox.
This is exactly what I
Yeah.
just went through yesterday.
So, third page, completely blank. I'm going to have Bob check other. I'm going to have Bob's name up here. And then Bob needs to...
Wait, how did you?
How'd you get the name?
His
Yeah.
name.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Sign her name.
Oh,
Sign her
there it
name
is.
right
Sign your
here.
name. Oh, yeah.
Oh.
I didn't do that either.
This happens every class I teach. People are like, sign her name!
Yeah.
What? Sign her name. And then date. So if you do this text
That's what I
box,
did. Just last night I was doing this.
if you do this text box, that gives Bob the opportunity to
Yeah.
write something in here. You don't want Bob to write anything in here. You don't know what Bob's going to say.
Okay, how can you write something in
I'm
there?
showing that.
Wow.
There it is. Okay, so hold on, let me finish doing. Sue's also a buyer.
Wow.
And Sue's a signer. And Sue's gonna check other. So they both acknowledge the other spot. Okay, so I am going to go back to Monsoon. Seller name, this is the easiest way to copy this. Okay, markup, right here on the right hand side, this is markup. So in the very beginning of class I said, here's your markup where you decide what font and everything you want to use. This is why that was there for this markup tool. This is you writing on something. So I'm going to draw here and paste the seller name here. There's the seller's name. And then I'm going to do the address too. Alright, so now they'll be able to see it.
Okay, see what, real quick, so what did you hit over on the right there to make that box?
Markup and then this little T box right here.
Oh, okay, you have to hit markup first, then, okay.
You have to hit markup first.
Right, that's why I couldn't make it.
So I also use this red line. Like sometimes this HOA addendum will have another buyer's name in here when it comes from MLS, and I just use this red line and cross it out and then put my buyer's name next to it.
Oh,
And drag their name.
Where's the red line?
The red line is this little line right here under the markup.
But you hit markup first before you hit any of those.
Mhm.
Oh,
Is it already a red line, or do you have to change it to a red line and mark it?
It's already a red line.
Why would, that confused me, why would the buyer's name go to the MLS? What did I miss there?
If, like, let's say that listing was under contract before, and they didn't have the HOA addendum and the listing agent
Oh,
got it, and then that contract canceled, and then they just went and put the,
got it.
obviously it's happened before. They went and put the HOA addendum in MLS when it had the old buyer's name on it. Alright, so another thing I like to do here, so I like to do the hardest thing on my layouts because it's easier to delete than it is to do all this if you're writing an offer. So split 50-50. If you get an offer and the buyer just wants to do all the fees, all you have to do is delete this stuff instead of sitting here and adding it all. So drag this layout, I'm going to show you where the layout, we're going to create the layout. You would just drag this over here and delete that out. So you want to use your layouts to save you time.
oh my God.
So I'm creating a layout out of this.
I mean, you wouldn't have to delete it either, as long as you just check the buyer pays rate.
Yeah, you would delete it if your buyer wanted to pay
I mean,
the HOA or the seller was paying.
Okay, but you're not in the layouts right now.
No.
But I'm going to create a layout. I'm showing you. I'm creating this, but I'm creating a layout at the same time.
Wow.
Okay? So if you can do it on your own. If you're not writing an offer, you can go through on your own and create your own layouts if you wanted to. But the easiest way to do it is on your guys' next offer when you're doing all these documents, get all the signing signatures exactly where you want them, and then I'm going to show you in the next step where we're going to create the layout. Alright, so Bob and Sue, there's my market conditions layout. So wire fraud advisory. This wire fraud advisory, these signings are from TransactionDesk, thinks that they know where they're supposed to sign, but they don't recognize that they need their name. So I still have to drag the signer name over here. And then the affiliated business disclosure. We're going to want to create a signing layout for this affiliated business disclosure too. Bob was the first signer. See all this dragging I'm doing? We're not going to have to do this after I make my layout. Okay. Alright, so this is our offer. I didn't, remember you still need a buyer advisory. I didn't put it in there on purpose because it would take too long to send to email. So, we have the layout from TransactionDesk for the purchase contract. We need the layout for the HOA addendum. We have this layout already. And we need the affiliated business disclosure. So go to the right where it says layouts. You can apply a layout here if you forgot to do it in the last screen, but you can save your layouts here. So I already have one for these. I want to save the HOA addendum, buyer sign, and then the affiliated business disclosure. Since it recognizes that these are buyers, I'm just going to put buyer on here. So I'm saving these layouts now. We're not going to have to ever create these layouts again. You can just apply them going forward.
I just want to give you a heart because I literally have been doing this in TransactionDesk every single time,
Yeah.
dragging every signature in for every contract. Yeah.
Yeah. So don't do that anymore.
I won't.
The only place you do it is in
No, there's
sign.
there's another place. I'll show you where you can do it.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll show you because it'll take a second to get to my email to sign. So I'm going to show you that while I'm waiting for that. So next, you can customize the email. So if you wanted to explain what documents you're sending or say anything, you would click on this and change it. If you had the listing agent copy on here, you can't explain anything to the listing agent, but you can change the subject and say like, you know, your best offer or whatever you want to say. Okay? Send invitations. So it's going to go to my email to sign. While I'm waiting for that to happen, I'm going to show you, if you go to your signings on the left, that little pen on the left, the lightning bolt means that it's out for signature. That means it's done, and the gears mean it's still being worked on. It hasn't been sent for signatures yet. Okay? If you go to the very far right, you see where I am on the very far right, there's a hamburger menu over here. I clicked in the very top corner. You see this first option, layouts? These are all the layouts I have.
Oh.
You can create a layout from here too. So I would add in a purchase contract. You can just add in a regular purchase contract. And then it'll have you, I can just show you real quick. I'm not going to finish the whole thing. Purchase contract, seller, purchase, add a background document, copy from forms. And if you wanted to take the time to do this before you were even writing an offer, this is a good way to do it, just so it's ready. So I added in a purchase contract. Okay, so I want whoever I assign the seller role in my transaction, the first seller is going to initial here. And this is me creating a layout so I don't have to ever drag these again.
Oh. This makes me so happy.
It's similar to a template, but
They just call it something different here. They call it layouts here. The forms were they were called signing templates.
Why don't they just do this for us?
slide does.
That would be nice, wouldn't it?
So this is just a blank contract then, right?
This is the blank one. This is if you
Okay.
wanted to go into it for all the forms. So Alright, so I am not going to finish going through doing all that, but let's just say I have one. Save layout.
I know, but you're on.
And you can edit all your layouts here, so I have a ton of them, if you notice. Alright, let's go.
Just real quick, you can bring your forms and your documents into one area, and then you can just lay out every one of them. How did you get to the layouts?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that again.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The pen on the left-hand side
Yeah.
brings you to all your signings. This is all done to sign home.
Yeah.
Okay? And then on the very far right corner, see the little hamburger
Yeah,
menu?
yeah.
Layout.
So you have to be in the signings. Alright.
Yes. And you can delete stuff. I know, I've gone in my agent's signings here, and there's like 40 things with these gears because they started something and didn't know how to finish it. So you can go in and delete stuff out of it.
Yeah.
Just select it and delete them all out if you don't want to see them in there anymore. So.
Gotcha.
Alright, so I'm going to sign for one person. Your signature is requested. So this is for Bob. Bob is going to sign.
And then is there a way to archive your files from 2 years ago somewhere so they don't keep showing up in your
Yes.
active transactions?
I can show you that too. If I don't remember, I'll show you right at the end.
Okay.
Alright, Bob is signing everything. So, this is something that you guys need to know for your buyers. When they're going through like this, they're just signing everything. And then they go, okay, I'm done. And then they close it.
They didn't hit them.
All the time. Constantly. They're like, I promise I signed it. So, if you go into your signing here, you see this little flag, it means they opened it.
Right.
They thought they signed it. If that flag's not over here, they didn't click complete signing at the end. So they need to go back in, do the whole thing over again, and make sure they click complete signing so it's finished.
So say for instance they signed everything and then they call you and say, you know what, we want to change our offer, we want to make it more, or can we go
I'm
through
going to do that right now. You were just leaving me right to it. Alright, so let's say they want to change their offer. We're going back to our signings in here. Click on that. So there's a couple things you can do up here. You can resend it if they say they don't have it. I resend it all the time. You can add a CC if you decide that you want to add the listing agent to be automatically copied. You can just add the listing agent from here. You can't do it after the signing is complete, but you can do it before the signing is complete. You can make a copy of it too, and the one I use the most is this reset. So the buyer wants to change their offer. You're going to reset the signing. It's going to delete any signings that anyone's done so far.
Oh, okay.
Even if it's complete or prior?
No, you can't do it if it's complete.
That's what I'm telling you.
Okay. And then we're going to go back. So I'm just going to let it sit like this. I'm going to go back to the dashboard. Go back to my transaction. You can click on transaction right here. Or you can actually just save yourself a step and click on the purchase contract. If you see this is the purchase contract here that I last accessed. So it's that actual purchase contract. It'll bring me right to it. So let's say they want to change their offer. Add in. Let's say they add in it. They're being stingy. They're only adding in an extra $100 grand.
You want it though.
Okay. And let's say there's solar on here, so I need to add a solar addendum. So I'm going to make a couple changes just for the sake of the class. So I've made the changes that I want. These are all the changes that I want on here. So I'm going to save it and exit it. And then I'm going to go back here and add in, I need a solar addendum added. Add forms. I didn't know it had solar. Here's the solar lease addendum, I'm adding that on there. So if you open it, there's really nothing I need to do on here because it knows seller, buyer's name. I'm just gonna date it for today, and everything else is good. Save and exit. Alright, so now I'm gonna go edit the signing. I'm not gonna resend everything and do the whole thing again. So you're gonna go to the right-hand side signings. These are all the signings for Prickly Pear that we've done. This is the one I was working on. Okay. Advanced options, again, you have to do this every time. I don't know why it's so annoying. You have to go back in here. Once you reset a signing, it unchecks that box. So you have to redo your options if you do a reset. Participants are still the same. Okay, so now we're here with all the documents that I had in there. I'm going to delete the purchase contract out of here because that's the old purchase contract. Go to add documents, top one again for the Prickly Pear transaction. Add the purchase contract in again because that's my edited purchase contract. I'm also going to add in that solar addendum that I added in. And add both of those in.
Now that's only if they have it signed. What if they have already signed everything and then they call you and say it?
Then I do a copy
Okay.
at that point. That's what the copy is good for.
Okay.
You can copy it over, and then once you've copied it over, you can do these steps again.
Okay.
Okay. You can recreate the whole thing again if that's easier for you.
No.
But if I do a copy, it already has the contacts in there and the documents in there already. So I find that the easiest way to do it.
Can I just, real quick, so I
Mhm.
think I had an issue where I was like, I changed it, and the guy was like, you didn't change it, and I'm like, I don't know what happened then. So I had to redo it. So TransactionDesk is in one area, Authentic Sign is on the other, and if I updated something, then I had to delete it out of the signing one to have fixed it. Okay,
So it still had the old contract in there.
that's why he was like,
Delete it
you
out.
didn't change it. Well, I'm so sorry.
But when you come back to this list, the only one that's going to be listed there is the revised one.
If you delete it out, you have to delete it out first by this little X. Then you have to add the document. Come up here and add the new one in after you've edited it.
So they don't sync necessarily. You're adding them over and moving them.
Yes, you have to add the new one in. Okay? All right. Design. This always takes a minute. So I don't do my
Can we go back to the participants, because sometimes I always go back and check the participants' layout, because sometimes like say it's I have one that's C.R. Freeman, so R is the middle initials, and sometimes they won't put it properly. So I go back and check. You know how you can hit on before layout, not before design.
Mm-hmm.
You can go back and check your participant, so it says custom signature. You can actually check. It's a drop down, a drop box. If you go back to your
To
signing,
check the
go back to
signing?
the signing.
What are
And
you trying to
where
do?
you go back to the signing, so it says add participants, and then it says. But if you could hit on add participants, you can actually see and make sure that the signings are all right.
Yeah, let me show you, because actually that's something that it would be good to show everybody. So I've sent this for signature now. If you go back to your signing, you're talking about catching it beforehand.
I'm
But
talking
let's
about
say,
catching it beforehand, because one time it was not right, so you learn from mistakes. You know.
and that goes back to the contacts too. So
Right.
if you have their name's wrong, and you edit it here,
Right.
it's going to be wrong on the next addendum or on the
Yep.
order that you do. You need to go back to the contacts in the transaction and fix their name if it's wrong. Okay? So let's say their email's wrong. You can go into the signing and fix their email here just by clicking edit and changing their email.
That's the one I'm saying. You can correct it, everything there.
But if you correct it here, it's only correcting the signing. It's not correcting any of the next signings that you sent.
Yeah,
So
right.
you have to go back to the
Right.
contacts page to correct it. Okay? So let me sign these. Alright, so Bob got a signing. Oh, I think I put Bob in the wrong spot. Complete. It always wants your client to create an account. They want to see all their signings. If you notice, if you're trying to sign something like the lead-based paint addendum, it'll put you as like an in-person signer. You don't want to have anybody be an in-person signer because it like emails them a code to use and then they have to log in on their own and put their code in. So it's just easier if you just send it to their emails. All right. So Bob and Sue have signed. Let me go back to these signings. It takes a second for it to register that people have signed. Wait. So, you guys have probably seen these emails signing updated. It lets you know anytime somebody like opens your signing and accepts it. All right, let's go to TransactionDesk. There it's signed. So you can access it and do a few different things from this page. So this means it's all signed. You can go and get the final document, which is the whole document package here, and download the whole thing. That's every document we put in there, every advisory that we put in there. It's going to be right here. You click view as PDF and it'll download it for you here. Okay. You can download separate ones here and save them all separately on this one. This is not the best way to send an offer though. So if you go to sign and complete, this is I CC'd my transactions email on this. So this is how it came through for whoever you CC'd. If you CC the listing agent, this is what happens when you CC the listing agent. This is how I like to send offers. It's the easiest way. It's a huge debate on whether you're supposed to send them as one package or separate documents. It's really 100% a matter of preference for the agent on how they're supposed to submit documents to their broker. So I just like to do it both ways. They can take them however they want. The easiest way to do that, instead of downloading every single one of them, is to do it this way. They don't need our affiliated business disclosure. They don't need the wire fraud or their market conditions advisory. This is all they need. The agency, HOA, solar addendum, and purchase contract. This is why I put them in the order that I did. Okay? So I'm going to highlight these, and I'm going to highlight this top one. This is everything in one package. Copy that, create an email, and paste it over. So I delete the signing certificate. They don't need that. And then I let them know to download a copy of the signed offer all in one. Go here. They can click on it and get the whole thing. If they want them separately, they can click on everything separately, how they want it here. This is the easiest way to send an offer over to somebody. They'll probably be happy with you.
So you only send links, you don't send a PDF.
No, I don't, because it's the same exact thing. They have to download a PDF anyways. This is the same thing. If they were to click on this, and they're doing a download, it's the exact same thing.
Right.
Okay. I send the links to them just so that they can choose how they want them. Another way to send it over, so I'm going to show a couple different ways just because everybody has different preferences, okay? So let's go back to our dashboard, go back to this transaction. So remember, once everything is signed, it's now a document. So if I want to access that purchase contract, that solar addendum, it's all going to be under documents now. So if I only want to send them a purchase contract and a solar addendum and nothing else, they might need the buyer agency. So I'm checking all these three things here.
HOA.
Oh, HOA. Okay, so they need those four. I'm checking everything I want to send to them. click on the basket. The basket does a lot for you. All of these options up here is what the basket does for you. So there's a couple of different things. You can email it to them automatically. If you've seen you get stuff from somebody's TransactionDesk email, this is how they've done it. You can send it as a link or as an attachment and put their email over here and put a little note. You can download it all and save it to your computer and then email it over that.
Thank you.
Okay, and then I think that's the only, and you can send it for signature too. You can copy to your cloud. That's getting a little bit more technical than we need to get today. You can also split documents from here, from this screen right here in your documents. If you get a package, if you're representing a seller and you get a package and you need to split stuff off, you can come in here and split stuff off this way. So let's say I want this HOA addendum split off. No, there's no real reason, but let's just say I needed page 3 split off. You would just click page 3, click save, HOA, page 3, and now it's going to be separated out in your documents.
That's also good to save it like that with the buyer's advisory with the sky slope, because they always want just the last page instead of the whole entire thing.
Oh, I upload the whole thing.
I always do too.
Yeah.
That's
So,
nice.
this is the easiest way to get all your documents split off, because the security on TransactionDesk is so strict that it's really hard to split documents in any other programs. So I like to split them off here first. Okay. So there was something else I wanted to go over in the signing. Did anybody else have something specific?
Okay, say you're on the reverse end of this, you got the accepted contract back all in one, as one group.
Mm-hmm.
Show me how to split that.
If I had it all as one,
The agent, the seller, the listing agent sent you back the accepted contract all in one package, all of them together.
okay. So I'm just going to save this to my computer. If you're representing the seller, you're probably saving it first. All right, so I go straight into the transaction, go to the documents, and we're going to upload that offer here. You probably want to do this for pre-quals too. I forgot to put a pre-qual in that offer. That's a step that you're going to do whenever you are sending an offer, is add the pre-qual in. So if you had an offer here that you needed to split off, you would just go to your documents, click on the name of it because it pops it up. This is the preview mode, and then right here on the right hand side, document slicer tool. That's how you split them off.
Document what? I'm sorry.
Slicer tool.
Okay.
They call it slicing. And I just selected all the pages for the contract.
Is that slicing tool?
Mhm.
Slicing.
Slicing tool.
Slicing.
Document slicer.
Now,
So-
do you have to actually type in the name of, like, all, that purchase, you have to retype all that in,
Yeah, whatever you want that document named.
you know?
So if I wanted to send, like I don't want to send my sellers all their advisories. A lot of times I'll get affiliated business disclosures and mold disclosures from other brokers, and I don't want to send my sellers all of that to sign. If I just want to send the purchase contract, the solar, and the HOA addendum to the seller to sign, I'm going to select all 3 of those. Save, and just put offer for seller to sign. Okay? Alright, so I'm going to show you another way to send something for signature right here, because this is going to be an important way to do it. I don't only want to show you one way. There's 14 ways to send stuff for signature in TransactionDesk, but another easy way to do it is just to go to the pen on the left hand side, click add at the top, and then I want this to go to my prickly pear transaction, and this is going to be seller acceptance of offer. So now, because I chose the prickly pear transaction, if I ever go to that transaction, it's in there as well. You always want to choose that, or else it's going to be lost somewhere in your transaction desk. So whatever transaction you want it to go to, you want to select that. Okay, let's say, oh, this is a buyer transaction, so I don't have a seller, but I'm just going to pretend this person is going to be the seller. So they're a remote signer.
You can go on that other screen though, and just hit add participant, and you can fill that in.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna.
Oh.
That's a lot of work there.
Okay. All right.
You can do that. You can add new participants all you want. But you gotta remember though that TransactionDesk recognizes contacts in the forms. So if you add a seller contact in the contacts, now it's going to be in the seller spot on every form that you create. So you want to make sure that you have the contacts right in order to have the forms right. Okay? So remember I split those documents off? So now it's in here, offer for seller to sign, already in here. And I'm just adding that in there. That will only show up if you had chosen in the beginning that you wanted it to be the prickly pear one. Let's see if I have offer to sellers. Spuds, you want to create a spuds layout right away. That's an important one. And you're going to have to move it around because it depends on how the seller scans their spuds in, but at least the initials are all going to be there. So like this doesn't line up, right? So you're going to have to move it around like that. This was the old purchase contract. Okay. This is already your second one.
But is it the second one of 202? I think it's the second one of 101. Oh, we did? Okay.
202. All right. Solar, and see, this was the tedious part here. And then okay. All right, so this is where I'm opening it up for anything specific you guys want me to show you how to do in here. Because there's so much.
So much.
Just start from scratch and do the whole thing over.
Does anybody have an offer they need written?
Okay, I have a question on the checklist. You get the offer back accepted, so you have an accepted contract.
Put it on the big screen.
How does it get into the checklist for the broker review?
That's a whole different program. That's SkySlope. SkySlope
Checklist
is
is
where
on here. You got a checklist.
that's a checklist for you. So if you want something to remind you that the earnest deposit is past due or that the spuds is past due,
okay.
you create your own checklist to remind you of what needs to be done.
All right.
Yes.
I was confusing it with SkySlope because that's what we used to use.
SkySlope also has checklist in it if you want to do it in there too. So, but SkySlope is only for broker submission. Is really what you would use it for.
Right.
One thing I did forget, you wanted to learn how to get rid of transactions, right? So if you look here, I have my transactions filtered from open to active. If I go open, it shows me everything. If you want to remove any of your old transactions that you're done with, all you have to do is change it right here to what you want expired, withdrawn, and then it won't show up in that list for you. You can also archive it so you won't see it just by going to archive. That is a little more scary for me because I don't delete anything. So I just go to closed when it's done or closed file complete. And you won't see it when you're on your transactions.
So this
You
is
have
the
this filter.
active, so like you're in the transaction, like the settings for the individual transaction, and that's where you change it?
Mm-hmm,
Okay.
in the transaction.
Okay,
Yep.
gotcha.
You can't delete it, but you can archive it.
Okay.
Okay. And that's what I tell you to do with buyers. Don't try and edit this if you're writing a second offer. Archive it, withdraw it, and create a whole new transaction.
Where do you copy it again? If you wanted to copy the same transaction?
You don't want to copy this transaction, but you probably want to copy a sign, right? There's no reason that you would want to copy a transaction, because it would have all that old information in there.
Okay, so if they had wanted to change one little thing on it, you would copy the signing?
Copy the signing.
Oh,
If they had already signed it, so let's say this offer here, now they're saying they want to change their offer and it's already signed, I would create a
copy of this sign.
of this signing.
Oh, okay.
Here, and now we're back to square one on the signing.
So they're two different things,
Mm-hmm.
and you're moving it over. If you made any changes, you have to move over here and copy the signing, not the transaction.
Copy the sign, yes, not the transaction, just the signing. But you also, if you're at that point where you have a signed purchase contract in your documents, you don't want to confuse it with the new purchase contract.
Right.
It's going to get a little bit confusing. So you can go to your documents here, and we're just going to, delete this means it's signed. You can just go in here under your documents and delete those. Delete everything out of here that you don't want to see, you don't want to get mixed up or use. Okay?
But you can rename it a
You
different
can.
name.
Mm-hmm. You can rename, if you don't want to delete it out of there, you can rename it to don't use, or hold.
How long does it hold everything?
Forever.
Forever?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, so, okay.
Well, unless you switch brokerages too, though. These documents technically belong to your broker, so if you switch brokerages, they take them all out of your transactions. And your broker will probably be like, hey, do you want these? They don't want them.
So like in zip forms, you lose it after a year. They just
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's all.
I don't have any, I don't believe nothing, so I have to.
So it's there forever.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah.
So Tay, how do you pull up your archived files then? Where do you go? You say, you want to go back and look at something or a closed file. If you
See the archived ones? I don't know, I've never wanted to access an archived file. That's a good one. These are all your withdrawn and expired ones. I'd never archive anything because I'm too scared to get rid of it.
Okay, so if I didn't archive it and I just saved and closed it, so it's not on my transactions that are actually, right? So where do you go again to
This filter right
pull
up
them
here.
up?
Filter, and here's everything I want to see everything that's closed. What I want to see. Everything closed.
Going kind of along those lines, as far as like archive, like you not wanting to lose anything, does MHG use or recommend anything Dropbox, Box, Google Drive, or prohibit for security reasons any of those online storages for even another copy of these documents?
No, they don't prohibit it. Actually, technically, it's your responsibility to keep them for 5 years.
No, I understood, but there are minor differences like between Dropbox and Box. I know in other locations they say, yeah, you have to use Box, you can't use Dropbox. Why? Because it's some weird arcane kind of coding that something has. There's nothing like that. I mean, it's up to.
Not that I know of.
Okay.
All my agents, I have all my agents get a free Dropbox account. All of these are Dropbox files here for all my agents.
Okay.
So we use Dropbox and Google Drive for my company.
Okay.
For them to store everything in there. Both those, the two you named.
Cool.
My home group stores everything for you, but if you leave the brokerage,
Right.
you don't have your documents.
Right.
So that's why I'm super big on you need your own file. You need your own Dropbox with my agents because I want them to have their files if they need them. You don't want to leave that. Even in TransactionDesk, if you leave the brokerage on bad terms, then they can keep your documents if they want to. So keep them in your files.
You can always download basically all the documents after you're done with the transaction, and I just put it up on a Google Drive. And I just pay for a ton of space, and I just put everything up in like iCloud and Google Drive so that there's no way I can lose anything.
No, I understood. I was just checking, because like I said, I had worked for a company that said, no, you've got to use Box. Well, why Box?
Probably they had a relationship.
Perhaps. No, it actually had something to do with security and client information. I don't remember what it was, but I know it's like a super technical question, but just...
I mean, I worked in tech for the last decade. I just switched back into real estate a year ago. And, I mean, I'll tell you, the largest tech companies use Google Drive all the time.
All right, guys. There's a bunch of other things I could show you, but I'd be getting very technical with it. So, is there anything specific that you wanted to go over that I have not?
Can we have your contact info?
Yes, of course. It's right there on that paper I gave you at the bottom. Oh, I'll get you one.
Okay, thank you, my dear.
You're gonna regret putting your actual
Well, it wasn't
phone
here
number
at the
on
beginning,
there.
so.
Huh?
You're gonna regret putting your real phone number on here.
That's actually the phone number for my team, so if I'm
She's like, I about smarted you all.
if I'm on, I answer it, but on my days off, my team answers it for me.
Wow.
Yeah. All right, I'll get you a stapled one.
Thank you.
Yes, we're off a little bit earlier than I thought because
Thank
I
you.
actually made these classes last time. We worked through lunch. Nobody wanted to take a lunch, and we ran late. We were only an hour long. So I made these longer this time.
For the layout, is it easiest to do the layout when you're actually in a transaction? So wait till you do a layout on your next transaction before you do the layout.
Yes, but don't forget to click save layout and hit send, and then you're like, oh,
Otherwise, it's too late to get there.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what, maybe I missed this, and I know you did the slides Why would you use that from the get-go?